Hey there, it's me, Andy. Ignore the fact that my face looks like crap. I have no makeup on whatsoever. I took a shower like 30 minutes ago. My hair's still soaked, so I braided it. Tea of the day today is this Tension Tamer tea. I'm actually almost done with it because I've had it for like an hour. I have a tea problem. It's not as bad as my soda problem, but I have a tea problem. But tea is 10 times better than soda, so. Today I'm going to talk about a book that I actually read over the summer, and I said I was going to do a review for it, but I could not emotionally bring myself to do it because it literally ripped out my heart. It was so bad, but it was so good. And that book is The Silver Kiss by Annette Curtis Claus, which, if you recognize said name, I read another one of her books, which was Blood and Chocolate, which is on my all-time favorite list. Like, I'm in love with that book so much. I also like the movie. Maybe one of these days I will make a video of comparing it. I know I said I was going to do that like over a year ago, or like 2 years ago, but I never got around to it because school, work, adulting in most aspects. But anyway, so this book, oh my god, it hurt me. It hurt me so much. Like, why would you do this to me? But it was so good at the same time. This copy of it has 2 short stories also, kind of like a in the beginning short story and then like after the fact. The first short story is called The Summer of Love, and Simon is a vampire who was living there, and in that short story he gets this cat who he absolutely loves. He doesn't like getting attached to things because he has to move all the freaking time, and it's just depressing. But something ends up happening to the cat and life goes on, essentially. That was the first time I cried for this book. And then in the main story, which is The Silver Kiss, he meets Zoe, and Zoe's going through a really hard time in life at the moment because her mom is in the hospital. Her mom's dying, essentially. And it's really rough for her. Her best friend ends up moving, and she has to deal with that. And then she meets Simon, who she slowly starts to fall in love with, which you see how short this book is. And this is with 2 short stories. Like, it hurts. But, Zoe falls in love with Simon. And the bad part is the fact that they have to defeat someone, and it's another vampire who kind of kills for fun, and Zoe's best friend almost ends up being one of the victims because the vampire who is doing it takes the form of, I believe, a little boy. Sorry if I can't remember. I did read this over the summer, and it is the end of January right now. So that's a problem. I would reread it again, but it hurts. And then the ending of the book, Simon has to make a decision whether he's going to stay with Zoe or not. I cried. Full on freaking tears. Like, I called Jake, my boyfriend, at I think 2 in the morning, and I was just crying so hard. He was already in bed and asleep, and I called him like twice, and he just hears me crying. And he's never really seen me ugly cry, but I was ugly crying. He's seen me like cry those tears that I'm like, I call them my funeral tears because I don't ugly cry at funerals. I refuse to do it. But it's like, in the comparison of it, for a lot of books, it's funeral tears of like, Not ugly crying, just like, you know, those little kind of ones that come down when you can't stop it. But this was like full on getting the news that someone died. If I get the news someone died, I ugly cry. It's bad. Well, if it's someone I'm really close with and I really loved. Um, I've been to more funerals in my life than I have weddings. My mom makes the joke that after I was born, um, over the 5 years, they started dropping like flies. It was pretty bad. But then the short story at the end, which is called The Christmas Cat. Zoe is no longer living where she used to live. She moved to go to college. I think it was college. I'm not sure if it was college. Well, she moved to San Francisco. And this cat just shows up. And it's a very familiar cat. And someone else shows up and talks to her and says that the cat is watching over her. And again, this was like, I finished this book, like the short story, after I got off the phone with Jake. I was crying again, but I didn't want to call him again, like 20 minutes later, and just be ugly crying again over the phone. And after I finished this book, he literally was like, "Why do you do this to yourself? Why do you put yourself through this?" I said, "Because it's like, it's so good. It's like being in a nice, long relationship and then a really horrible breakup, but like, you know it's for the best." So like, ow, my heart. Still, my heart still bleeds for Zoe and Simon. Like, please, please, give me more. But, I got this off Thrift Books, which is where I get a lot of my books because I am broke. Not really. But I am saving for my trip to Montana. So, little thrown about Thrift Books. Thrift Books does not sponsor me because I am irrelevant, but I do preach about the fact that I get a lot of stuff off Thrift Books because I also love Thrift Books. But yeah, so this is just a semi-short thing that, like, it's a short book, so there's not really much to say without spoiling a lot. But essentially the timeline is Simon finds Cat. Simon does not keep Cat. Simon meets Zoe. Makes a choice whether to stay with her or not. Zoe moves. After, well, I already said her mom's dying, but her mom does pass away. So sorry if that's a spoiler, but you pretty much know what's going to happen in the middle of the book. Like, you know that she is not going to make it. And Zoe also has problems with her dad because her father's dealing with the fact of still having to kind of raise Zoe a little bit, even though she is in high school. She has to deal with kind of raising her. He has to deal with raising her a little bit more. And still losing his wife in the process, so it's really hard for him, and you see the relationship between Zoe and her dad kind of progress in a way that's kind of beautiful, and I wish it would happen with me. Totally not plugging in the fact that I have issues. But, Zoe moves to San Francisco, finds Cat, gets a little visit from someone, and it's a beautiful story. Like, it is pretty much it's a tragedy. Like, it's not Romeo and Juliet tragedy, but it kind of is, and it kind of rips out my heart, but it's always good to read a story that doesn't necessarily have a happy ending. Because it's, for me, a reminder that sometimes the best choices people have to make in their own lives do not result in a happy ending. So, this book is fantastic. I love it. It's so amazing. And give me more of them, please. But you can't. But yeah. So this was my all-time favorite book of the summer. To be honest, and yeah. So it's so nice, and I love it, and this cover is gorgeous too. Like, I've seen other versions of this with a different cover, but this is gorgeous and I love it so much. So yeah, thanks so much for watching this video. I may or may not film more today after I change into something I like more. And I'm going to do it while I still have sunlight, because even though you see everything that's wrong with my freaking face right now, I do have a lot of other books that I need to review because I've been putting it off for so long. And I have a lot of free time now because I'm not getting as many hours at work. So, yeah. Thanks so much for watching this video. Like if you have read this book. If you haven't seen my Blood and Chocolate review by the same author, go watch that. I highly suggest these books. They're a little older, so kind of like before the YA section was a YA section. It actually has a little, I think, excerpt in the front of the book from the author about her finding the YA section, I believe, or like creating the YA section. Yeah, there is an introduction that I forgot about. That is her wanting a young adult section before there was young adult section. So, wow, this totally just extended way further than I thought it would go. Still a good book. Again, written before YA sections were kind of a thing, so it is older. Well, the main story's older, the short stories are newer, so I love it, and for me, they're like classic YA romances, and it just makes me so happy, and the emotion I feel for it, like I said, I cried 3 times, once for each story, because I am sappy. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this book. So again, thanks so much for watching this video. How many times am I going to go through this outro? Like this video if you have read this book, comment anything if you've read Blood and Chocolate or The Silver Kiss. Comment if you cried, because I need to know. Like, is it just me? I need to know. Subscribe if you want to see more of my face. Maybe I'll put makeup on for later videos that I film today, if I film any more videos today. So yeah. I will see you in the next chapter. Bye!